3 years ago, a man broke into my room. After a wild night, he said he'd take responsibility, but I still called the police. Later, he went to prison, and I had nightmares for 3 years. Then I met Steve. He helped me out of the darkness and I fell in love with him. The day I found out I was pregnant, I was so happy and wanted to surprise him. But then I overheard him telling someone, "Tim is my brother." She got him into prison, and he lost his life there. So, I won't let her get away. When she's completely in love with me, I'll send her to hell myself to pay for it. Tim was the man who broke into my room back then. So, I decided to leave first and deliberately left the pregnancy report behind. Later, I heard that the always calm and composed Steve searched the whole world for his pregnant wife. When I found out I was pregnant, I was truly overjoyed. With the pregnancy report in hand, I decisively went to Steve's company to share the good news in person. Steve once said he wanted a daughter with me. We envisioned a happy family of 3, with him being a good father and an excellent husband. This time, perhaps our wishes could come true. I tried to calm down, put on a mask and hat, and use the access card Steve had given me to enter his office without alerting anyone. If someone noticed and informed him in advance, the surprise wouldn't be complete. Just as I was about to push the door, I noticed it was already slightly ajar. I peeked through the gap and saw Steve and Billy standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, backs toward me, talking. Billy was a close friend of Steve's since childhood and also knew me well. I was about to enter when I heard Billy speak. "Steve, how long are you going to keep up this act?" Hearing this, I froze in my tracks, my hand pausing midair. For some reason, a bad feeling washed over me. As for Steve, he was looking down, holding a photo frame, lost in thought. Finally, he looked at Billy and coldly asked, "You think I'm getting soft?" Billy said nothing, but Steve chuckled bitterly and shook his head. "No, Tim was my brother. She got him into prison, and he lost his life there. I'm only pretending to be nice to her because she hasn't completely fallen for me yet. The day she fully loves me, I'll..." He paused, but then, seeing Billy's gaze, he continued firmly. "I'll personally send her to hell to pay for Tim's life. Tim is a scar I can never forget. Even now, hearing his name makes me shiver and feel nauseous. Mentioning Tim brings back the nightmare from 3 years ago. I had just graduated from college, saved some money, and went on a spontaneous trip to Paris. That day, I'd stayed out late, returning to my hotel exhausted. As I was opening the door with my key card, I suddenly heard a commotion behind me. I didn't even have time to react. In the next moment, a stranger appeared, covering my mouth and dragging me into the room despite my struggles. He quickly shut the door behind us. Someone seemed to be chasing him down the corridor. It was late at night, and of course, I was scared out of my wits having a strange man in my room. He seemed somewhat delirious. When I tried to run, he held me tighter, immobilizing my hands. He told me he wasn't a bad guy, only fleeing because he was framed by enemies and drugged with an aphrodisiac. He needed a place to hide. I couldn't speak because he had my mouth covered. Even when I bit his hand until it bled, he wouldn't let go. He called me feisty and unsympathetic for not saving him in his hour of need. Then his body grew hotter, and his mouth trailed from my cheek to my collarbone. Ignoring my resistance, he threw me onto the bed. The strength difference between men and women is vast. I couldn't move, his grip was too strong. My mouth was covered and my hands were restrained. All I could do was stare at the ceiling in despair, praying for it to end quickly. When it was over, he kissed my lips in satisfaction and said, "My name is Tim. I am sorry about tonight. But don't worry, I will take responsibility for this." I didn't know him. Even though he was very handsome and sincere, he had still violated me. So, to me, Tim was a rapist. I was terrified and furious. I didn't care about his responsibility, I just wanted him to pay for what he did. So, when he fell asleep, I quickly called the police. There was footage of him dragging me into the room, and I didn't know him. I fought back throughout the night, breaking many things in the room. Even the guests in the neighboring room reported the loud noises, thinking it was a fight. With all the evidence against him, Tim had no way to deny it. He went to prison for several years. The incident blew up on the internet. Guests who stayed at the hotel that night even shared photos of Tim and me. At first, people sympathized with me. But then they found out Tim was a rich kid from a powerful family. He was handsome and had publicly vowed to take responsibility for mess. So many people started criticizing me, saying I was blind for not seizing the chance to marry into wealth and for even calling the cops. Some said Tim was rich and good-looking, making it worth spending a night with him, and they'd choose to cling to him rather than report him. Just like that, it felt like a scene straight out of a novel where the main characters meet for the first time. Ideally, I should get pregnant and then secretly run away. The CEO would chase after me, and eventually, I would marry into a rich family and live happily ever after. They said, that's the script I should follow. Not like now, where I make a big deal out of everything just for a bit of justice. Some even said he was a victim too, drugged and out of his mind. They said it was partly my fault for not being firm enough to push him out of the room, which led to the tragedy, so I needed to bear some responsibility as well. In short, many people were cursing me, through screens and behind masks, stabbing me without mercy. They said, they're both adults. Who knows, maybe she was enjoying it and just playing hard to get at that time. Which good girl stays in a hotel? Who knows which man she might secretly meet that night? These two comments garnered over 1 million likes, even though they were utterly unreasonable. So, after Tim went to jail, I fell seriously ill for 3 years due to the online abuse. My parents were very concerned but didn't dare bring me back to our hometown because the news had spread widely online, so naturally, our relatives and acquaintances would know. And it's the gossip from those familiar people that could truly strip away my will to live. I felt like a stray dog, so dirty I couldn't go home and unable to stand in the sunlight. Indeed, I attempted suicide and even tried to jump off a building. Until I discovered that everything online was orchestrated by Tim's family to retaliate against me, that's when I completely gave up on the idea of suicide. The more they wanted me dead, the more I resolved to stay alive. Clinging to that resolve, I managed to persevere for 3 years. Then, I met Steve. That day, I went to the hospital for a follow-up, and people recognized me, resulting in more gossip and pointing fingers. As people surrounded me, Steve appeared to help me. He led me away from the hospital but, knowing I was scared, didn't take me to a deserted place. Instead, he gave me a mask and hat and let me stay in a mall, then he called my parents. That was our first meeting. He was gentle and polite, maintaining a respectful distance from me. Later, we met at the hospital again, and he mentioned that a family member of his was ill, so he had to visit frequently. We officially got to know each other. He was gentle and considerate, gradually becoming a part of my life. My initial wariness of him softened, and our conversations became more frequent. Eventually, we tried meeting up for meals, and I began to develop feelings for him. He helped me out of my darkest times, promising me a future and that he would never let me down. Under his care, I slowly became more cheerful and stopped having nightmares every night. So, when I found out I was pregnant, I was genuinely happy. I thought fate was finally kind to me, allowing me to start a new life. He told me repeatedly that none of this was my fault. Until today, when I heard those words from him, I realized how laughable it all was. My thoughts rushed back like a tide, and I was already in tears. Through the crack in the door, I looked at Steve again as he raised the photo in his hand. I could see the smiles of him and Tim in the photo. They stood on a sports field, arms around each other, carefree and bright. In the past, I'd had moments of déjà vu, thinking Steve's eyes looked familiar. But I had purposely avoided recalling Tim's image, so it only felt familiar without ever fully clicking, perhaps because deep down, I didn't want to think about it. I never expected that they were brothers. Even more surprising was how he intended to push me into the abyss. I don't know how I got home, my entire body chilled to the bone. It was a sunny day, but the skies suddenly darkened, and a downpour began. By the time I got home, I was already soaked. The nanny hurriedly brought a towel to dry my hair. I avoided her touch and gave her a day off, then shut myself in the house. Steve sometimes needed to work from home, so the study was filled with documents. He'd mentioned a few times that those documents were very important. If they fell into the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic for the company. So, I never entered his study or touched any of his papers. But now, I opened that door. Perhaps he trusted me too much, thinking I would never come in, so he brazenly left a photo with Tim right there. There were photos and an incense burner. The photo was in black and white, and the incense in the burner had burnt to ashes. Next to it was a file. Inside, there were photos of me from childhood to adulthood, tracking all the places I'd been and things I'd done. It even documented my school crushes and the type of boys I joked about liking in great detail. No wonder Steve fit my ideal type so well. Besides these, at the bottom was a sheet of information about Tim. After he went to prison, due to the rumors outside, I was deeply distressed and didn't want to follow any news about him. It wasn't until much later that I learned Tim had died, in prison, from a fight. His head hit the wall, snapping his neck, and he died on the spot. That sheet contained the details of Tim's death, his eyes wide open as if staring at me through the paper. I was scared of him, but I didn't regret a thing. If I could relive it, I'd still choose to pick up the phone and call the police. At the bottom of that sheet was a line of writing: Tim, brother will avenge you, I will never let Winnie go, I will never waver. It was in Steve's handwriting, written with a red ballpoint pen, each word imbued with great force. The last 5 words were traced over and over. It was as if he was continuously reminding himself to be determined, not to show any mercy toward me. Suddenly, a wave of nausea welled up inside me, and I rushed to the study bathroom, wildly vomiting. After emptying my stomach, the phone in my pocket chimed. It was a message from Steve, saying the company was busy today, and he had to leave for a sudden trip. He'd be back tomorrow. Stay home and be good, eat well, sleep well, got it? He said. Today was August 12. If I hadn't seen that sheet, I might have thought it was just another day. But as it happens, it's the day Tim died in prison. In a daze, a memory suddenly surfaced of the years I spent with Steve. He rarely went on business trips, except for every August 12th. He would definitely be away, and when he returned, he would be in a bad mood, avoid looking at me, and shut himself in his study. It turns out, this date is the anniversary of his brother's death, and he just happens to hate me. I couldn't help but close my eyes. I thought I had found the light, only to realize it was just another hell. The man I loved so deeply was the brother of that demon from the past, pretending to be an angel to drag me back into hell and make me suffer endlessly. Steve, why did you do this to me? The unbearable despair and pain turned into anger and hatred at that moment. No one can treat me like this. Steve, you want revenge, don't you? I slowly opened my eyes, looking at the crumpled pregnancy test results in my hand and the confidential documents on the desk that could destroy his entire company. These documents contained enough information to deal a fatal blow to his company, so let me make the first move. I restored the study to its original state, making it look like no one had entered. As for the pregnancy test result in my hand, I thought for a moment, then tore it up and flushed it down the toilet. Next, I scheduled an appointment at another hospital for a checkup a month later. In a month's time, I would settle everything between Steve and me. The next evening, Steve called, saying he was waiting for me in the garage and wanted to take me out for dinner. I agreed and quickly got ready to go to the hotel with him. When we entered the private room, Billy and Stella were already talking. Stella turned her head when she heard us, and seeing me, her smiling face immediately turned sour, and she rolled her eyes at me. Stella is Steve's sister. I had met her a few times before, but she didn't like me. I had thought it was just a lack of chemistry. Looking back, Tim must have been her second brother and they believed I was responsible for his death, so the whole family was united against me. The rumors from the past hadn't driven me to death, so now they resorted to these disgusting tactics, trying to break me completely. But they miscalculated. I didn't look at Stella and peacefully finished my meal. Billy and Stella likely had feelings for each other, but hadn't confessed. Steve, as a brother and friend, was playing matchmaker. Tonight's dinner was probably for their sakes too. For me, it was tasteless. After dinner, it was already dark, and Stella suggested going for a walk by the river. Naturally, Billy and Steve didn't refuse. The four of us walked in a line, with Stella talking non-stop. Occasionally, she would look at me and make sarcastic remarks. "Winnie, our family has high standards. My brother has always been outstanding, and the women who like him are all very perfect." Stella emphasized the word perfect in a heavy, biting tone. The events of 3 years ago had left an indelible mark on my heart, so those words were blatant mockery to me. In the past, Stella would say similar things, hoping to see me in pain, and Steve would pretentiously tell her to stop. Thinking about it now, if Steve truly cared about me, how could he not seriously warn his sister to never touch my sore spot? Before, I would stay silent and let Steve handle it. But this time, I stepped in front of Stella before he could reprimand her. "Perfect? If you want to mock me, why not be more explicit?" For most girls, the shame brought by the word rape makes them want to hide under a blanket, cut off from the world, shivering in fear. I was the same, always deliberately avoiding mentioning it. But now, looking at the man and his sister who caused it all, using this incident to mock me, it was just too ridiculous. So I couldn't help but laugh, bending over and tearing up. Steve's expression changed, and he tried to reach out to support me, but I pushed him away and grabbed Stella's wrist. "Every time you see me, you always remind me of what happened 3 years ago." "Why? Are you that curious about Tim?" Hearing me say his name so directly stunned everyone, especially Steve, who clenched his fists, looking furious and struggling to contain himself. I pretended not to notice and stared at Stella. "Well, let me tell you today, Tim was a bastard. Anyone who does such things without a girl's consent is a bastard." Stella, with her fiery temper, couldn't contain herself. Upon hearing me insult Tim, she couldn't hold back and immediately retorted, "Tim was not a bastard." I sneered, my eyes fixed on her face, and continued, "A rapist isn't a bastard? Stella, since when did you become so kind? So tolerant of rapists?" Stella wanted to argue further, but she was speechless, fumbling for words. "Winnie, stop it, let's keep walking." Steve's voice was low, clearly unhappy, but still trying to maintain a facade of calm. I feigned ignorance, turned to him, and asked, "Do you think I'm right, or is she?" At that moment, it was a question of life and death. So he stayed silent for a long time, finally sighing and reaching out as if to comfort me. But before he could do anything, a drunken man stumbled off the lawn toward Stella. He wasn't fully conscious, but he knew men from women. He lunged at Stella, who was wearing a short skirt, making her scream and frantically try to push him away. The drunk man laughed in a disgusting way, and squeezed her thigh hard. He spat out filthy words, accusing her instead. "You wear such a short skirt and come out at night to seduce people. Isn't it just to be touched? What's wrong with you? Get lost." Stella cursed furiously. Steve and Billy reacted quickly, pulling the drunk away. Steve even kicked him to the ground and threw several punches at him. "How dare you touch my sister? You're asking for it." Stella hid behind Billy, her eyes filled with tears. "Come on, teach him a lesson, teach him." The punches rained down on the drunk. People who witnessed the whole scene turned away, and some even muttered as they passed by, "Hit him a few more times, harder." Everyone hated people like that drunk. I, on the other hand, started laughing. "Winnie, you see me getting bullied, and you're still laughing? Such a cruel woman you are." Stella was furious, stomping her foot. I looked at her, then at the drunk man still getting beaten. Why shouldn't I laugh? "Stella, you have so much sympathy for a rapist, but this drunk man just touched you twice, and you're mad?" I threw her own words back at her. She was stunned, then shook her head. "No, this is different." I quickly retorted, "How is it different? You don't know this man. He tried to bully you, and you rightfully felt hurt. Naturally, you want your brother to beat him. Even if he gets beaten to death, you wouldn't feel bad or sorry, right?" I paused, looking at Steve. The anger on his face had his fist frozen midair. It seemed like he was listening to me, lost in thought. The pause gave the drunk man a chance to get up from the ground. He bit his lip, reached out, and touched Steve's face, saying, "Not bad, your face looks better than the girl's," before running away quickly. Steve scrubbed his face hard, like trying to get rid of something disgusting. He turned to me, and I continued, "So, you couldn't stand being touched. Your brother wanted to kill him when his face got touched. And 3 years ago, on a joyful trip, a stranger did that to me despite my resistance. Shouldn't I hate him? Shouldn't I curse him?" I took a deep breath, trying to calm my emotions, but I couldn't stop my eyes from reddening. I rushed up to Steve and asked, "When you saw your sister being bullied, did you hate it?" He froze, his eyes showing complicated emotions. I then rushed to Stella and asked, "You couldn't stand getting your leg touched if you were in my shoes 3 years ago, with a stranger, no matter how good-looking, doing what he did, wouldn't you hate him?" "Stella, tell me, wasn't Tim a jerk?" Maybe I was too emotional, but the siblings who loved drama fell silent. Billy, on the other hand, adjusted his glasses and calmly said, "But Tim wasn't a thug. Besides that, he was successful, handsome, and came from a good family." "And?" I turned to Billy, interrupting him. "Billy, I hope you never have a daughter. If this ever happens to her, and she dislikes or even hates the man, you'd tell her not to be angry. You'd be happy about the man's success, good looks, and family background, right?" That night, the 3 people who wanted to take advantage of me fell silent. They didn't feel the sting until they got cut themselves. After feeling the sting, even a small one, they became livid. Remembering those righteous accusations, they realized how ridiculous they had been. A rapist's success and looks have nothing to do with his crime. People who hold their bottom line are good, whether successful or not. The line between human and beast isn't about looks or background, but actions. After that day, Steve's gaze toward me had an added complexity. Perhaps, without blood ties, he'd realized Tim's actions were wrong. But family ties make people blind, blaming others. Like grandparents cursing the table when a child falls. The table doesn't move, nor does the cement floor. The moving one is the child. But they blinded themselves, faulting me without reason. I wasn't wrong. Reporting to the police and sending Tim to jail wasn't wrong. They were wrong for being unreasonable and unjust. I hadn't forgotten my purpose. By bringing this up, I wanted them to rethink whose fault it was. At night, Steve and I lay in bed. Perhaps due to the incident, he tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I couldn't sleep either. I sat up but didn't turn on the light, glancing at him by the dim moonlight. "Steve, what's on your mind?" Night lowers people's defenses and stirs emotions. Steve also sat up, leaning against the headboard with me. He probably wanted to say something, but hesitated. Instead, he asked, "Winnie, after we get married, can we have a daughter?" I shook my head. He was surprised and asked why. I told him, "I'm afraid you can't protect her." He froze, then retorted, "How is that possible? I'd protect her with my life." I laughed, but it was a cold laugh. Yeah, any dad would use his life to protect his daughter. When I got into trouble that year, my dad did the same. He stayed by my side without sleep, running between the hospital and the police station. He just wanted justice for his daughter. But the other side had power and tried to cover it up. My parents worked hard and turned their hair white, just to get justice. My voice trembled a bit, and then I quickly grabbed Steve's hand. I told him, "If you ever have a daughter, you have to protect her. Don't let her go through what I went through. Even if the guy seems great, if she doesn't like him, she'll be scared and cry. Just like Stella. It'll break your heart. Every parent feels this way." Steve's body shook slightly as he listened to me. In the end, he suddenly reached out and hugged me tight. That night, Steve stayed awake all night. Over the next few days, he treated me very well. I could see the struggle in his eyes. Over the years, I truly loved him and tried my best for him, and he did the same, acting like he cared about me. Maybe, in the beginning, he was full of hate. But after so much time together, so many days and nights, I could see it in his eyes. He started to like me. That's why Billy asked him that question in the office. And that's why I had to make him feel my pain, to make him fully love me. He wanted to use emotions to play me, to get revenge on me. Naturally, I had to give it back. But I couldn't count on this ridiculous love to complete all my revenge. Love is too fleeting. Having nothing is the best punishment for someone like Steve, who has always looked down on everyone since birth. For the next few days, he was very tender with me. Each time, I'd take lots of photos and upload them to Twitter. I had contact with Stella. So, she would definitely see these lovey-dovey photos on Twitter. Her initial contemplation didn't mean she would come to her senses. She'd still hate me due to our blood ties. So, seeing these photos, she would definitely be furious. If she saw it, then the woman behind her, Maria, would also see it. Steve's mother, being an only child, needed an heir for her family. So, amongst the 2 sons and 1 daughter, the eldest son inherited the father's business, and the second son inherited the mother's business. Because of this, before that incident in the office, I couldn't have linked them together. And Steve's mother was always closer to her younger son. 5 nights later, I couldn't sleep to be precise. I'd been having insomnia every night since learning the whole truth. So when the phone rang, I woke up instantly but pretended to be asleep. I listened to Steve beside me carefully answer the phone and get up from the bed, standing on the balcony. He had his back to me. The night was especially quiet, so I could hear the woman on the other end of the phone. "Steve, what have you been doing these past few days? Tim is your brother. That woman got him in jail. You said you wouldn't let me be sad, that you'd make Winnie utterly miserable to ease my pain of losing Tim. But lately, Stella says you've been treating that woman better and better. She sure is a seductress. It wasn't enough she seduced him, now she's got you too. Don't you want to avenge your brother?" The woman on the phone was very angry, questioning with each word. Steve stayed silent for a long time before speaking. "Mom, a while back, Stella and I went to dinner. On the way, a drunk tried to touch her. I got angry and taught him a lesson. I'm talking about your brother, and you're bringing up some drunk? That man dared to bully your sister? I've already sent someone to deal with him." At this, Steve took a deep breath and then said, "Stella was just scared, and we got so angry. Winnie was really assaulted 3 years ago. If Tim wasn't my brother, wasn't your son, wouldn't we think he was in the wrong?" Steve's mother on the other end immediately screamed, "Steve, what are you trying to say? Don't forget, this was your idea. You swore to me that Tim, your beloved brother, died because of that woman. You promised you'd give everything to avenge him, remember? Stella is more useful than you. She came up with that online smear campaign to avenge her brother. Now, you're defending that seductress? Have you fallen for her in this twisted game?" Steve quickly denied, "No, I haven't." But the woman on the phone was too angry and hung up right after. Steve just stood there on the balcony, silent for a long time. I looked at his back, struggling to control my hatred. The vicious online attack back then was masterminded by Stella. She came up with the idea, but many people carried it out. The whole family is to blame. I continued to pretend not to know anything. But Steve's mother, seeing my constant flaunting of affection, was getting impatient. So, I rarely went out. If I did, I always took Steve. After a few close calls where I nearly faced danger, he, knowing the truth, could naturally guess who was behind it. For this, he specifically told me he needed to stay home for a day, saying it was for something important. I agreed readily. When he came back, he had a new wound on his forehead, claiming it was an accident. But if I guessed correctly, it was probably from something hitting him. He also had several scratches on his arm, bleeding badly, but I pretended not to notice. After that day, the incidents indeed stopped. Everything seemed to return to normal, so I suggested, and we planned a date. Not at some fancy restaurant, but in a secluded place in a small riverside town, wandering through the alleys. When those men with sticks appeared, he was surprised. But he stayed calm, carefully shielding me behind him, and looked up at them. "Get lost." His tone indicated he didn't take them seriously at all. Maybe he thought, given their relationship, they wouldn't dare touch him. Unfortunately, he was wrong this time. "Winnie, don't be scared, they won't." Before he could finish, the leader exchanged a glance with me, then quickly raised his stick and swung at Steve's head. "Steve, watch out!" I shouted loudly, reaching to pull him and trying to switch places with him. Of course, it wasn't a real switch. The person with the stick was still a distance away. As we tussled, Steve froze for a moment, then after switching places, he saw the stick coming down on me. He couldn't block the stick, so he hugged me tightly. Swapping places again, I moved with his force. Finally, the stick landed on his shoulder. Steve let out a cry of pain and fell to his knees. "Steve." I forced my eyes to redden, showing my worry. The men kept getting closer, and I threw myself on Steve. I screamed at them, "If you want to fight, kill me first. Don't touch Steve." Naturally, they didn't hurt me. As the sticks were raised, a passerby showed up, holding a phone, claiming to have called the police. These men, panicked, fled. After that, Steve and I fell to the ground in the alley. I looked at him, my voice trembling with evident tears. "Steve, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have asked you to come out with me today." Tears fell on his hand as he looked up at me, his gaze complex. "Winnie, with so many people and thick sticks, you still wanted to shield me. Weren't you scared you'd die?" The old Winnie would firmly shake her head, as love meant protecting each other. The current Winnie also would shake her head. I looked at him, love clear in my eyes. "Steve, we've been together for so long. We love each other deeply. So when danger comes, I can't think about anything else. I'm just scared you'll get hurt. Even a small injury would break my heart." As I spoke, my fingers brushed his forehead, where a scab had recently formed. He shivered from my touch. Then he gave a bitter smile. "Yeah, even you would worry for me, scared I'd get hurt." He paused, then looked towards where the men had left. "But some people, knowing I'd get hurt, still don't care." He couldn't continue. I didn't press on. Instead, I hugged him tightly. Children who lack love always crave warm embraces. After that incident, Steve had a huge argument with his mother. Right in front of many employees downstairs at the company. They argued vaguely. It escalated. Then they went upstairs, shut the office door, and continued fighting. Steve's mother had tried many ways to hurt me. To her, Tim, the son with her surname, was more important than the others. Such uneven love makes the neglected child accuse, going hysterical. Though she would deny it, no matter how you checked, the clues wouldn't lead to me. In such a big city, there were more powerful families, some with long-standing grudges against us. I couldn't meddle with this powerful feud. But a grudge means allies, so it was helpful to me. Someone would erase all traces for me. Because the worse the rift between mother and son, the more it impacted the company, allowing rivals to take advantage. Business wars are always dirty. I had already bonded with a girl in the company. So when the news of Steve arguing with his mother in the office came out, I went to the company with a lunchbox, waiting outside the office. Despite the soundproof door, their hysteria was clear. Others, ordered not to approach, didn't dare. But I wasn't a company employee. Bringing lunch for my boyfriend was natural. So, I naturally learned the truth. I dropped the lunchbox, forcing out tears, acting heartbroken, and walked down a floor facing curious employees eavesdropping. I said nothing but cried, looking devastated, and ran out of the building. I had driven myself. Once in the car, I sped to the parking lot in my complex. I dialed a number, calling someone. Except for files kept in the home office. Lately, Steve had been taking me everywhere to avoid any accidents. So I'd been to his office. He didn't guard against me in business. I found and photographed many important documents. And then, today, I sent everything to that guy. He replied with a "got it." He said, "Don't worry, as agreed, I'll make sure they go down completely." Enemies in business for decades. They were originally evenly matched. But if the other party has so many confidential documents, everything changes. I got the answer I wanted and heaved a sigh of relief. When I got home, I smashed a lot of things in front of my aunt. My hysterical outburst must have been an ugly sight. My aunt, confused, picked up her phone to call Steve, who was at work. I used this opportunity to put a new pregnancy test report I got 2 days ago into the wardrobe. I had already prepared the suitcase underneath the wardrobe early on. Dragging my suitcase, I left the apartment without looking back while my aunt looked more and more panicked. I moved to another city. Not prosperous, but quiet and comfortable. Over the years, I had saved some money. My parents prefer tranquility, so I found them another place to settle down. As for me, I went to the hospital alone. I found out about the baby when it was only a month old. So I planned my revenge within a month. This way, I could complete my revenge plan while ensuring my health. At first, I was genuinely happy about the baby. Because she symbolized love. Unfortunately, I learned everything. I knew that this child would have some of Tim's blood in her veins in the future. The other half of her blood would be from those I hated. So, I couldn't be a great mother. I didn't want to see my child, and painfully realize he would resemble his father, his uncle, and his aunt. That would be a nightmare. So, since seeing that document in the study that day, I decided to abort this child. But 3 years after what happened, my health had been poor, and taking this step now meant I had to stay in the hospital for a month for observation before I could leave. Lying in the hospital, I didn't dare to tell my parents. I just said that Steve and I had broken up and I needed to cool off. In the hospital, I met a little girl. She seemed very young, maybe even still in school. She held a pregnancy test report, trembling and crying uncontrollably. She had a similar experience to mine. After it happened, I feared getting pregnant and took a bunch of morning after pills at once, which nearly caused serious problems. But she didn't take any pills, so she ended up pregnant. I asked her, "Why didn't you report it to the police?" She looked down. "I don't know him, but I know he has power and influence. I'm scared, sis. He said he would take responsibility, but I don't know him. I was meant to study abroad. But now there's a baby." She looked at me with evasive eyes, as if fearing I'd scold her. I reached out and gently hugged her. Many girls don't dare to report such things. It's not wrong. Even today, society claims gender equality, but it still holds biases against women. So, being scared and wanting to escape is not wrong. I just wanted to tell her, our lack of courage distorts societal perception. Like in novels, a one-night stand is a painful start, but people forget there are police in the world. And the kind of love that blooms from those encounters in some CEO romance novels is nearly impossible in reality. So, I hope she carefully considers whether she wants to give up her bright future for the baby. That was all I could say. The choice was hers. Back in the ward, another patient was watching the news on her phone. Wow, I really don't get the world of the rich. Her family, peeling an apple, replied, "What's new? So fresh." Dad was watching financial news at home, and this young handsome guy on the cover, I thought he was a CEO right out of a novel. Turns out real life mimics a novel. What's the story? Doesn't his company have lots of money? He put his company aside to find his missing pregnant wife, despite being in a critical period. Isn't that straight out of a novel? Her mother shook her head, laughing. How do you know? It's just like a novel. Maybe his wife left because he's no good. But, what's his name? She didn't respond right away, flipping through the news. As I was about to fall asleep, I heard her say, "Seems like his name is Steve." Besides the wife-hunting news, there was another piece. 2 companies suffered because a CEO went missing and their major contracts leaked. Both companies faced severe issues, their businesses were disrupted, and many deals were terminated. Longtime rivals took the opportunity to snatch all the deals the struggling company was forced to relinquish. Overall, it was a brutal takedown. The company faced huge problems, forcing Steve to return to the capital to deal with the crisis. When I recovered and returned to the city, both companies had collapsed completely. The opponent had equally strong power. They used to be evenly matched. But after the recent fallout, Steve was completely crushed. When I came back, Steve had just declared bankruptcy. His mother, overwhelmed with anger, spat blood and ended up in the hospital. Billy was opportunistic. For the sake of his family's interests, he planned to marry another girl. But Stella was too stubborn. She found an opportunity to meet Billy and injured him, making him impotent. She said, "You promised you'd only marry me since you broke your word, don't blame me." Billy's family was furious, and Stella went to jail for injuring him. As for Steve, I ran into him by the river. He looked utterly defeated. The moment he saw me, he rushed over. He grabbed my wrist and kept explaining, "Winnie, listen to me. At first, I wanted to get back at you. But after spending so much time together, I realized I have feelings too. I couldn't help but like you. But with Tim's death, and my mom and Stella in pain, I didn't know what to do. So I channeled it towards you. I did want revenge at first, but I regretted it. Because without you, nothing felt right. I was the one who leaked your company's documents. I knew you were plotting against me long before that day." I cut him off, looking at his dazed eyes. Then I continued, including that pregnancy test. The baby was real. But I found out about it a month earlier. Unfortunately, I didn't want the baby's father to be you. So I terminated the pregnancy. There will never be any connection between us again. After saying that, I watched as the hope and love in his eyes shattered bit by bit. He looked in disbelief, staring hard at me. But I grabbed his wrist, stepping back little by little. Seeing people walking by the river, I smiled at him. "Steve, your love for me was tainted with manipulation from the start. So even if you ended up loving me, I could never trust you. I'm the kind of person who always seeks revenge. I've already repaid you for your emotional manipulation. But in life, you gotta collect some interest." So I let go and fell into the river like a bird with broken wings. Even if he didn't react in time, he still tried to reach for me. Winnie. As for me, I was prepared. Passers-by quickly rescued me. I just choked on a bit of water. But once I got out, I pointed at Steve. My voice trembling, why did you push me?" I brought up the incident from 3 years ago, pushing it to the top of hot searches again, including Steve and Tim's identities this time. No one was deliberately guiding the discussion. It was purely about discussing the safety of women. Hearing my words, after his initial shock, Steve closed his eyes and said, "As you wish." Then he went to prison too. Before he left, he said one last thing to me. "Winnie, I know you hate me, so as you wish. As long as it makes you happy. After all this, our grudges are even. When I get out, I'll chase you again. Since you once loved me deeply, I am confident I can make you love me again." I found his confidence laughable. In the drama of chasing a wife, there's absolutely no way it will succeed with me. I despise Tim and I hate Steve who manipulated me. So even in death, I could never love him again. Never fall for someone who once wanted to hurt you. Now, I just want to love myself properly.